Okay, here we go again. In today's Necron list building video for the new 9th edition Necron Codex, we're going to talk about adapting your current list to this book. And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to learn about Necrons and more, then please subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss an upload. So I'm sure, like me, you've got your Necron Codex and you can't wait to play your first game. Well, this video is all about adapting your old Necron list to the new Codex, mainly to get a game in with the book as soon as possible and start learning the rules. Now, when I got my new Necron Codex with all of the new toys that came with it, I was very busy making unboxing videos. I made 7 videos in 2 days. I only had 2 hours sleep that night. A lot of fun, and of course I hope you enjoyed the videos. However, when I arranged to play Richard from CM Wargames on the Wednesday, it just gave me one night to make a list. And actually, this really goes back to a video I made last Monday of how to learn your Necron Codex, adapting your current list to the new Codex. Using this system of adapting your old list gives you some advantages. 1, you already know that army very well, and 2, you have less rules to learn when you want to play the game without knowing every single rule that there is, and also stop you from flicking through the Codex too much. So I thought I would start with my Necrons 2020 list. This is a list that's been very successful for me, both in 8th edition and in 9th edition so far. Things have changed quite a bit on some of the units, and I do appreciate that the units I've got in this list now aren't necessarily the best units. However, this is all about playing a game without having to learn too many of the new rules, and also, of course, experiencing how the new rules work so we can move forward and adapt the list and come up with some brand new lists with all of the new super cool special abilities. But that's for another video, because today's video is about adapting my current list. I thought that if I share my thought process of how I went about it, but it might just help out some of you. So I really hope you enjoyed the video, and it's time to go table down and have a look at my adapted 9th edition list. Okay, so here is my army, the Stormcrons, which I've been playing throughout 2020, 8th edition and 9th edition, and with a lot of success. It's only had a few minor changes, and that was when Chapter Approved came out with the points changes. So we're going to take a look at this list. I'm going to explain why each unit is in the list and how I plan to change it for the new Codex. As I said, this isn't going to be my main 9th edition Codex list. It's just a startup list so that I can start playing and get used to the rules. I'm not expecting this list to perform incredibly well like it did in the past with some of the rules changes. However, it's going to be a good starting point. Right, it's called the Stormcrons, and the reason for that is heading up the force is Cryptek the Stormlord, which of course means I'm in the Sotek battalion. I actually like the Sotek dynasty, and the one reason for that is the Sotek Warlord trait, which helps refund command points as you use them, which, well, previously not having too many command points has been very useful. Obviously now we get more command points, but it's still quite a useful thing to have. Plus, his Core the Storm, his lightning strikes are very fun to play. I really enjoy playing those. And with his 2+ save, 4+ invulnerable save, 6 wounds, and all of the extra bonuses he has to his living metal, etc., I just found him to be a very good HQ choice. So, Cryptek the Stormlord, of course, is a character which is still available, and he is still in the list. We've had some points changes though, and having a look at the Sotek Warlord trait, it basically works exactly the same. There is an extra benefit to Stormlord, and that is you get 2 command points as opposed to 1, added to your total for taking him, assuming of course that you're battle forged, which I am. Cryptek would usually just stand at the back near an objective next to a couple of units of immortals, giving them my will be done, because he could do that twice. Again, that is still there. Obviously my will be done has changed slightly, but that's what I used to do with him. Now for my second HQ I had a Cryptek with a Canoptic Cloak, which I found a very useful character because he went with my destroyers. We'll talk about those of course again in a minute. But yeah, he was with those destroyers and I gave him the Veil of Darkness. That gave me some movement. Now occasionally I would vow some immortals, but mostly it was all about the destroyers, and having that 8-inch movement, at least after I vowed, I could move him around a little bit more. Now we have a slight problem with the current Cryptek that's basically replacing this guy. Now known as the Technomancer, this guy has Rites of Reanimation, which is where he basically can give the RP bonus to another unit. However, he can't do that with destroyers because they are not a core unit. So he is not going to work how I used to have him. So I've decided to actually change this guy up totally. However, I'm sticking to a Cryptek because that was my original list idea. So instead of the Technomancer, we've got the Chronomancer with the Chronometron, which allows me to select one dynasty unit within 9 inches, and I can give them a 5+ invulnerable save, a reroll to charge if I want to. So now he's a little bit more versatile in the list because he will work with both the immortals and the destroyers and potentially the wraiths as well. So I've got options. However, I am thinking I'm probably going to leave him with the immortals, and the reason for that is I've got the Veil of Darkness on my Cryptek, and the Veil of Darkness only works on core models. So I'm almost definitely going to put him with the immortals, allowing me to vow the immortals and then of course give them the 5+ invulnerable save. If the destroyers or the wraiths are nearby, then potentially I can give the invulnerable save to them instead. And the Chronomancer also has Time Splinter Mantle, giving him a 4+ invulnerable save. So similar in how I use him, but slightly different. But I think the Chronomancer is going to be a better option than the Technomancer in this list. And she runs in at 110 points. That's 15 points more than the old Cryptek, but with the 5 points drop from Cryptek, it's only costing me 10 points more for my HQs. So with my HQ sorted out, it was time to look at the troops. So I'm currently using Immortals with Tesla, and I think we all know that what's going to happen is those Immortals are going to change to Gauss Blaster Immortals. Immortals now at toughness 5, much tougher as a unit. Of course, we all know that the warriors are a thing, and you will see warriors in my future lists. But for now I want to try out Immortals, and of course the Gauss Blaster, especially in the Sotek Dynasty, much better. So we've got a 30-inch gun which is a rapid fire, but in the Sotek Dynasty rapid fire at 18 inches. That's pretty good with the -2 AP in there as well. So I'm happy with those changes, and it's going to cost me 20 points less. So 360 points previously, now 340. And of course Immortals are core, and also they have the command protocol, which we are going to talk about later in the video. Okay, so then we've got the elites slot where I have a Triarch Stalker. Now I've used this Triarch Stalker with all the gun options over the years, and I'm still a big fan of the twin-linked heavy Gauss cannon. However, that gun has changed slightly in the new codex. Now the gun itself has definitely got worse. It's 30 inches where it used to be 36. It's strength 7 where it used to be strength 9. It's -3 AP and it used to be -4. And now it's D3 damage as opposed to D6. However, it's 6 shots, which really helps when you look at its new targeting relay, which now you have to actually hit the unit. You don't just have to declare it as a target. And to be fair, with just 2 shots previously, I very often missed that target and did no damage anyway. So at least with 6 shots and at strength 7, it's not too bad. It's going to be quite good at taking out light vehicles, potentially even infantry with a good amount of wounds, which actually probably is just quite useful in general, because taking advantage of the targeting relay is what this guy is all about. And of course he has the new quantum shielding rule, so he now has a 5+ invulnerable save with his 3+ save, and your opponent can only wound on a 4+, so 1s, 2s and 3s do not wound. So I think overall that's quite good. Now he used to be 135 points and now he's 150, so he has gone up slightly in points, but I'm still happy with the unit in the list. So next it's fast attack, and in my list I had 5 destroyers, although there's only 4 there and I've just recorded the whole video. I'm not re-recording it, so yeah, let's just put another destroyer there and carry on. Okay, so you didn't see that right, so we've got 5 destroyers and 5 wraiths. Obviously the destroyers doing what they do best, destroying stuff with extermination protocols, and of course not really needing any SOTEC or any dynasty benefits, so they were very useful and worked really well in the list. And then the wraiths giving me that unit, the independent units that could just literally go off by themselves and do what they needed to do. Very survivable, 3+ invulnerable save, and not too bad in close combat. So fast attack choices, I was very happy with them. So I looked closely at the fast attack choices, starting with the wraiths. Obviously we've got some changes to their rules, only a 4+ invulnerable save now. However, we do have the ability to fall back and reassault once again, so that was good to see. So of course the wraiths were staying in the list and they've come down in points, so the wraiths now coming in at 175 points. I was paying 230 points, although admittedly that was with 1 whip coil because I had a few points left over. So wraiths, no problem. Next up we will look at the destroyers, and this was my reaction. Destroyers, destroyers, destroyers. Heavy support? No way! Yeah, heavy support. Honestly, I couldn't actually believe that. I had to double take several times to make sure I wasn't missing anything. But yeah, destroyers are now heavy support. I've heard people say, well, they should be heavy support. Why were they even fast attack? They've always been fast attack. They're fast attack because they move fast. I mean, at one point these guys were jet bikes and they could move 24 inches with turbo boost. We've had some good rules with them. However, now they are heavy support, and well, we're going to look at heavy support in a second because yeah, I've already got 3 heavy support, so I actually came across a problem when trying to adapt this battalion detachment for the new codex. So this is how I went about trying to solve the problem. I hadn't yet looked at the entries in the heavy support, not at the points costs or anything, so I thought, well, let's do that. So I started with my Doomsday arcs, which of course are my anti-tank in the army, although those little Gauss flayers on the sides, they do some good damage as well. So I had a look at those. They were 180 points previously and now they're 190 points, so not too bad, just an extra 10 points each. And my third slot in the heavy support choice was these guys. These are my converted heavy destroyers, converted out of the old destroyers. So I had a unit of those, just 3 of them, 120 points, a nice cheap few extra anti-tank guns. However, now these guys are very expensive, 210 points for these guys. So I was struggling with this little section. I had a good think about it, what I could do with them. I was thinking just drop one of the heavy supports, probably the heavy destroyers because of the points cost, and then just take one destroyer unit and move it over into the heavy support slot, and maybe then have an assault destroyer unit over in here, replacing one of the destroyers. However, I didn't want to do that because the whole idea is to use my list, which I've been playing for a very long time, so I could really see the changes and work with what I already know. So, after a lot of thinking about it, this is what I came up with. First, I had to remove the heavy destroyers. There was no way they were going to be able to fit in the list. With the heavy destroyers moved, it meant that I could put some destroyers in the heavy support slot. Now I'm still left with one unit of destroyer, so I have no choice but to take them out of the battalion and put them in an auxiliary support detachment. Now that is going to cost me 2 CPs. Imatech gives me 2 extra CPs to the army, so I'm basically using them on the auxiliary support detachment. Now they will lose the dynasty benefits, but that's not really a problem for destroyers. So that means I had 30 points left. Now I had a look through the codex. I thought it might be fun to add something to the Cryptek, and I came up with what I thought was quite a good idea. For 30 points I could have got counter-temporal nano mines, which is an 18-inch ability in the shooting phase that allows you to basically make your enemy only assault you at half of the range that they roll. Sounded pretty good, especially as I played Space Wolves quite a lot. However, I didn't think it was optimum for the 30 points, and there was something that I was a bit disappointed about with this list, and that of course was that I had no heavy destroyers in the list. So I thought, how about this? If I remove a Gauss cannon and replace it with a Gauss destructor, well, now I've got one of my heavy support units in there, but obviously in the destroyer unit. And then for the other unit, if I remove one of those and replace it with an emetic exterminator, well, now I've got 2 heavy support guns in that unit of destroyers. And I thought that would be quite good because it will allow me to play some heavy destroyers and also allow me to try out both of the gun options. We've got the Destructor and the Exterminator in the list just to try out, and at least I've got some of my heavy destroyers in the army. And that comes in at exactly 2,000 points. Now Imatech of course is a noble unit, so that means I can take advantage of the command protocols, and I've had a look at those and I've come up with the order that I want to choose. And I've just written it on my army list, 5, 3, 6, 2 and 4 in that order. So let's have a look at those cards. Now looking at these cards, to be fair, I almost thought to myself, I'm just going to shuffle the deck and do it randomly. But I thought, no, just try and choose an order. It was very difficult. I did Undying Legions first, because I thought if I don't get first turn then I get shot at. Well, I've got the Reanimation Protocol re-rolls there, or I could potentially use the other one for the Living Metal ability depending on what I'm facing. So that was my first command protocol. I then went for Vengeful Stars, which is basically the one that helps when shooting. I'm figuring that turn 2 hopefully I'll be able to get most of my guns in range and get some good shooting. I then decided to use the Conquering Tyrant as my third card, because I need to use that when Imatech is still alive, so I don't want to leave it too late, because obviously Imatech can use both of these options. That's an extra 3 inches to the aura ability, which could be very useful. By that time my army's going to be depleted, maybe further away, and also have the option to fall back and shoot. By that time all of the reserves would have been in, either turn 2 or turn 3, of course they come in. So I thought, well, if I use it on turn 3, then if there's any sneaky people that hold their reserves back to the last minute, and then I've got that card up my sleeve, literally. Okay, and then I went for Sudden Storm, which gives you an extra movement, 1 inch movement, which is the main feature. The other one I didn't think was that great because you're performing an action. You can still make attacks while performing the action. I didn't think I'd use that, but I thought the extra movement might be good. By turn 4 you're not going to have much left, and that extra 1 inch movement could help you get to an objective. And then finally I used Hungry Void as my last turn card, and that is a melee based card, which I thought if it's the end of the game and you're in melee, maybe just 1 or 2 models left, having the extra help in melee could be very useful. So that's how I chose the order of my protocols. And there you go, within no time at all I've got a 2,000 point army ready to play. I half know the army because I played it a lot before, and it's a good way to learn all of the new rules for the army without having to learn all of the rules in the codex. So as I said, it's a good learning tool to get an army on the table quickly, just to have fun and start to learn the rules. Of course, the next step after I've had a couple of games with this army is then to expand it, to adapt it. So I will be adapting this army, and I'll be making videos on how I'm going to adapt it in 9th edition for the new codex. And then of course, once I've done that, I'm going to be making some armies from scratch. I can't wait. My Flayed One army is going to be back, 60 Flayed Ones, it's back in this codex. I also want to do a reanimation army, basically an army of mainly troops and infantry that can benefit from RP, effectively warrior blobs, which I actually had a warrior blob list ready to go for 8th edition, but I just never got around to playing it because it wasn't that viable. Now it is. So keep watching, lots and lots of videos to come. And if you didn't see some of my unboxing videos for all of the new models and the new 9th edition codex, then check out that playlist just there. I'm sure you'll enjoy watching it next. Beam me up!